provided in SM20. I'm sure lots of people have questions on it. In it, the State Department says it's reasonable to assess that there could be violations, but of course saying not that there's no evidence of it. If it's reasonable to assess that there are violations, how does this affect State Department planning going forward? Should there be greater concern, greater restrictions potentially on weapons going forward?
So there's no policy change to announce, Sean. What the report makes clear is that first, to take a little bit of a step back, the report makes clear that this is a very complex and complicated battlefield. It is a very dense and urban setting. We are also dealing with a belligerent, in this case Hamas, that has a clear track record and history of co-locating itself with civilians and civilian infrastructure, using civilians as human shields. We've also made clear in the report that the IDF has undertaken steps to implement international humanitarian law obligations for the protections of civilians in the current conflict, including requirements that are related to distinction, proportionality, and others. But we also are clear in our report that it's reasonable to assess that defense articles covered under the National Security Memorandum have been used by Israeli security forces in instances that are inconsistent with its IHL obligations. But we also have no direct indication of Israel intentionally targeting civilians. But to take a step back, Sean, and I guess this addresses kind of your broader question, a country's overall commitment to international humanitarian law is not necessarily disproven by what may be individual IHL violations. And the most important thing here is that Israel does have a number of ongoing active criminal investigations pending, and there are hundreds of other cases under administrative review. Israel has taken steps to, and is taking steps to, hold itself and its actions accountable. Simultaneously, we also continue to have tools at our disposal that existed before the National Security Memorandum and existed afterwards. Things like the Churg process, the Leahy process, the conventional arms transfer policy, end-use monitoring, and other things to continue to assess and continue to look into instances that are reported to us that may be concerning. The same can be said about humanitarian aid. We continue to monitor that situation very closely, and will continue to assess the government of Israel by its actions as it relates to humanitarian aid.
Sure. Now, when you say you have lots of tools at your disposal, I know you said that you think that the Israelis have taken action on their own. In the State Department's view, there's no intention there. But if it's reasonable to assess there have been that things have gone against the spirit of international humanitarian law, is there more that can be done? And particularly with this, if it's a question of not actually having evidence of it, will the State Department continue to probe and see if there is?
So we'll continue to look at the circumstances on the ground as we have prior to the National Security Memorandum was even signed. It's important to remember that the NSM did not outline or create any new parameters or mechanisms. Really, it was another assessment tool, and the tools that we have at our disposal will continue to exist. But again, Sean, it's important to remember that given the nature of what is happening on the ground, and given the nature of Hamas's track record of co-locating itself with civilians, using civilians as human shields, we're unable to make a conclusive determination as it relates to violations of international humanitarian law.
Just one more for me on this. I mean, in terms of the message that's being sent from this, what message do you expect Israel in particular to see from this? The fact that you're saying that there, not you personally, but the State Department is saying that there are potentially violations of the spirit, things that are going against international humanitarian law, but there's no firm evidence there, no repercussions. But what message do you think should be taken from this? Do you think there should be a sense of they should do more? They should do more to they could do better potentially?
Absolutely. Our message continues to be what our message has been for some time, which is that the United States stands with Israel in its effort to defeat Hamas and hold the terrorists accountable for those that were responsible for the October 7th terrorist attacks. But simultaneously, there is a moral and strategic imperative to take every possible step to minimize civilian casualties, steps that we know that the IDF has the tools and the capability to undertake, things that unfortunately are not being met in certain instances, but simultaneously that this is also a belligerent that is using civilians as human shields, and therefore we've not been able to come to any kind of conclusive conclusion on this. And on the humanitarian aid front, we'll continue to press all regional partners, including the government of Israel, to do everything we can to get more humanitarian aid into Gaza. Okay. Camilla.
Thank you. Just sticking on the national security memorandum.